As the Leader Grows podcast, where we help business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. I have got an unbelievable treat for you guys today. I have got my good friend, Michael Unbroken, Michael Anthony, AKA Michael Unbroken. Guys, this dude is obsessed with helping trauma survivors get out of the vortex to become the hero of their own story. Author, speaker, coach, and warrior. And my boy is a freaking warrior. Michael, what's up, my friend?
Man, I am so excited to be here with you today, brother. Thank you so much for your time and your audience and this voice and this message, man. I've been looking forward to this one a lot.
Dude, man, I'm excited you're here, man. It's funny, we've been in the same 10X community for a while and really had not crossed paths until my Create conference in January. And you showed up and we connected, and instantly I knew, I was like, oh yeah, me and this dude right here, we're gonna be tight. And then we got to spend some time together in Colorado a couple of weeks ago for the Undercover Billionaire Boot Camp that you were at and I was at. And dude, I'm just super excited about you being here. Take a couple minutes, talk to our audience, man. Tell them a little bit, who is Michael Unbroken?
Yeah, man. And look, I'll say this before I jump into that. Where you put yourself and into the rooms that you go are going to dictate your future. Like, yes. For real. So I grew up in Indianapolis. My mother was a drug addict and alcoholic. In fact, at 4 years old, she actually cut off my right index finger. Now, people always go, man, how could your mom do that? And look, my mother was continuating the perpetration of generational trauma. You've heard this before, hurt people. And she married my stepfather when I was 6, super abusive dude, the kind of guy you pray is never your stepfather. He'd kick the crap out of my brothers and I, put me in the hospital multiple times. And, I remember lying in bed as a little boy and being like, I wish my real dad would come and rescue me. And Ken, he never came. And that's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, because I realized, like, no one's coming to rescue you. There are no Disney moments. And if you want something in life, you're going to have to go and get it. And I spent the majority of my childhood homeless and deeply in poverty. In fact, we lived with 30 different families when I was a kid, getting bounced around place to place to place, no stability. Sometimes I was showering and only eating at school. When I was 12, my grandmother adopted me. Now, you'd think that'd be a heaven sent, and to some extent it was. Now, I'm biracial, black and white. My grandma's an old racist ass white lady from a town in Tennessee you ain't never heard of.
Oh, man.
And so I started having this identity crisis at 12 years old. I mean, it was so crazy. We had a copy of Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, on our kitchen table, like no joke. And so I got high for the first time when I was 12, drunk at 13. And by 15, I was expelled from school for selling drugs. I was breaking in houses, running from the cops, getting shot at, hurting people. I mean, it was crazy. And luckily I got put into a last chance program. Still didn't graduate high school on time. And in fact, in summer school, my summer school business teacher, the irony of all ironies, my summer school business teacher literally goes, dude, we're just going to give you your diploma. We're tired of you. You got to get the hell out of here. And that's what happened. And I found myself being like, okay, wait a second. I'm not going to make it where I want to go in life. Something here is off. There's a misalignment. And I made a declaration to myself. I said, I want to make $100,000 a year legally by the time that I'm 21. Now, the legal part was super important, right? Because I have family in prison for life. I've been in handcuffs multiple times. And as of today, my 3 childhood best friends have been murdered. Like I knew where I was going, Ken. I knew it. And so I said, all right, let me get focused on this goal. $100,000 seemed like the right number because I'd never, ever seen that kind of money. And so I started learning skills. I learned how to write resumes. I learned how to do cover letters and do interviews. And at 18 years old, I landed a job with a fast food joint with 52 people under me. So I'm a baby learning how to do inventory and shrink and loss.
Okay,
and
so let me stop you. I gotta back up. I gotta back you up just a minute. I just gotta back you up just a little bit. So you grew up in an unbelievably difficult situation. And where in the world did a goal to make 6 figures legally come from? Like, where did that come from?
Well, man, here's my thought. We were always poor. I mean, dude, we were so poor, I would steal clothes from the lost and found, Our electricity get turned off in the winter. Our our water get turned off in the summer. When I was 8 years old, I literally stole water from our neighbor's house. Dude, so I know poverty in ways most people won't understand. I know homelessness in ways most people, and it felt like the one thing that was always kind of the connecting factor in that was money. Because it was always what my family was arguing about. There was always bills, collectors calling the houses, cars getting repoed, us getting evicted. Dude, I'm telling you. And so I was like, it's got to be money. This is how you solve all the problems. And so 100,000 felt to me like a marker that was unattainable. It might as well have been $10 billion because I'd never done that before.
How old were you when you set that goal, Michael?
I was 18. And so,
18 years old.
So here's what happens. I get a call from my girlfriend at the time. I'm at home, I'm stoned, I'm playing video games. And she goes, you're not graduating. Your name's not on the list. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So the year I graduated high school, Harris Polls did a survey. They called it dropout factories. My high school was one of the worst high schools in America. Dude, it was almost impossible not to graduate from there because they just passed you through. And so I go to school after she calls me, walk up to Mr. Bush. He's my business teacher first period. I knew he was the one that failed me, Ken, because at the beginning of the semester, I walked up to him. I said, I'm not coming to your class. It's 7:15 in the morning. I'm busy. I'm out all night. I'm doing things just to keep the lights on, dude. I'm not coming to your class. He goes, look, check in with me and do homework. I never did that one time. So I'm standing there and he comes out and I go, why did you fail me? He goes, I didn't fail you. You failed yourself.
Wow.
And the thing that you need to dude, Ken, what he told me next changed my life forever. He goes, what you need to understand is you can't get by on your charms and your good looks. If you want something, you have to earn it. And that became this incredible precedent that set for me to move towards that 100,000. Now, being 18 years old, not really knowing how to do that, I only knew buy here, pay here, the strip mall, flea market. I didn't know anything about business or anything. I was like, all right, cool. There's a fast food joint. Let me see if I can get a job over here. And then I do, and I start learning these skills. And one day, so I'll age myself a little bit here, I'm on MySpace chatting with my homie, and he's like, yo, I just got a Tahoe. I'm like, how'd you get a Tahoe? Like, you grew up in my hood, you went to my school, you're a dummy just like me. And he's like, I'm working for an insurance company. My mind was blown, dude. I'd never even fathomed that to be a possibility. So you talk about these markers of seeing if someone else has done it, it becomes possible. This was the first time that happened for me. And so for the next 2 years, I applied for every insurance company and position possible. And as I was 20, heading into 21, I landed a job with a Fortune 10 company. No high school diploma, no college education. And I started making that 6 figures. Now, of course, it destroyed my life because that thing happened to me that happens to people when they get money for the first time. I didn't know what to do. And I found myself heading into 26 years old. I was 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep. And that's when I put a gun in my mouth. I was just done, man. Money didn't solve the problem.
What was your teacher's name again?
Mr. Bush.
If you talk to Mr. Bush, does he know what you're doing today?
The craziest thing happened to me when I was 28. So my first real legal entrepreneurial adventure was I was a award-winning international destination wedding photographer. I know that's crazy, but it's true. And so I have to go get some memory cards one night before one of the biggest weddings I've ever shot. I'm about to make 15 grand on a Saturday, dude. It's crazy. And I'm like, I need to clear my head. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive to the Best Buy an hour and a half away. And I'm in there and I'm looking at memory cards and I look up and this is a decade later.
Wow.
Mr. Bush is right there. And you talk about like the circumstances of the universe. And I walk up to him and I go, you don't remember me. I go, I doubt it because I was never in your class. How could you?
Yeah. And
he goes, no, man, I remember you. You used to have like this little mini afro, didn't you? I go, yeah, I did. I go, dude, you changed my life forever. And he just shook my hand and he said, congratulations. And he walked away. It was the most surreal experience ever.
Wow.
I'm sitting here in tears. I'm like, bro, you don't know what you did. He's like, just another Tuesday for me. But that's
Yeah.
what kind of amazing leader and teacher he was. He was the only person that ever believed it. One of two people that ever believed in me as a kid.
Wow.
And he believed in me enough to not let me falter and fall into the trap that he foresaw me going into by forcing me to have accountability in my life for the first time.
Wow. I absolutely love that. I was curious. I was curious to see if you'd had any interaction with him since then. How long ago was that?
Man, that was almost another decade ago,
Dude,
man.
you need to circle back with Mr. Bush.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually tried to. So, it's how it is, man.
So tell me, so 100 grand, you've got this dream job, you've landed
Yeah.
it, kid from the hood, you've landed this dream job. How long did it take you to figure out that 100 grand wasn't going to solve your problems?
Well, as soon as I was like $35,000 in debt, which
I tell,
which which
I
then
tell
that
people
turned
all
into
the
42,000.
yeah. I
And I
tell
was like,
people all the
please go ahead.
I tell people all the time. Listen, when you start making more money, all your bills do is they just get more zeros and more commas. That's all it does. If you don't know how to manage and steward money well,
Ken, nobody taught me, dude.
yeah,
I had no idea. Like I've had my mind wrapped around this idea about money trauma for a long time,
yeah.
educating myself about it, getting myself out of, dude, the most freeing moment of my life was being out of debt and actually have money in a savings account in which if there was ever something terrible that happened, I'd be okay. And that took me, dude, I was making 125, 130 a year and working 2 jobs at one point because I couldn't afford my bills. And that was because, look, think about it, man. If we are the sum total of all of our experiences, which I believe we are, then that means everything that's ever happened to us informs who we are. And so I'm sitting here learning to be in debt. I'm learning to have collectors call. I had a car repo, dude. Do you know how embarrassing that is?
Making 120 grand a year and you get a car repo.
And I got a car repo. Here's why, man, because I didn't know what to do. My first paycheck for 5 figures, I blew in the mall in 3 hours.
Wow.
Because I didn't know. Like nobody ever said personal development. Nobody ever said read a book. No one ever said invest in real estate. Nobody ever told me this. The only thing I was trying to do as a kid was not die.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought money was going to be the marker that helped me live this lavish life. And sure, I had an $80,000 car and all the J's, and I'd take girls out to $500 dinners. But dude, my life was a wreck, man. Yeah. It was a wreck.
How long into that process, and where was the moment you had the epiphany that I've got to change something?
So the night that I put a gun in my mouth, and I know that's a hard thing for people to hear, but this is what happened. It was my rock bottom. And it was the moment in which I was like, I can't take this anymore. All the pain, all the suffering. Dude, you know more about me in 30 seconds than people who knew me for my entire life. Because I kept those secrets. And when you keep that shame, when you keep that guilt, when you keep the culpability in which you are not culpable on yourself, like it destroys you. Yeah. And so the next day I'm laying in bed. Now keep in mind, man, I'm 350 pounds. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm smoking a joint, eating chocolate cake, and watching the CrossFit games. Wow. Like, dude, if that ain't rock bottom, I don't know what is.
That's funny.
And I get up and I go in the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror. And for the first time in my life, like I looked at myself and I was like, oh, you're breaking that promise that you made to yourself when you were 8 years old and you walked across the street to that house and you stole water and you said this wasn't going to be your life. And financially it wasn't, because I had money. I'd pulled myself out of debt, but everything else was a nightmare. And I looked in that mirror, Ken, and I said, what are you willing to do to have the life that you want to have? And I said, no excuses, just results. And for the last almost 12 years, every single day, I have been pushing myself through the limiting beliefs and mindsets and trauma and abuse and everything to be where I am today. And that has been a tremendous amount of effort and work. And I try to teach people all the time. This is a game of mindset. But one of the biggest problems is people don't teach you what mindset is. In this personal development space, you hear mindset 8,000 times. Mindset. Nobody tells you what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is right now. There's a giant sign in front of me. You cannot see it, but it says mindset is everything. And what this means is very simple. What you think becomes what you speak become your actions, and your actions become your reality. And some of you are being so incredibly mean to yourself right now with the words in your own head that are mimicking your truth, that if you said that to me, I'd punch you in the face. And you're expecting to be successful. The very first thing that I teach people when they come into my programs, when they do anything with me, is I say, you take a pen, this thing right here, which literally is the most powerful tool you will ever invest in your entire life, and you write this down. And if you convince yourself that this is true, it will change your life forever. Yes. And what you have to convince yourself is this: I am the kind of person who is kind to myself. I am the kind of person who is kind to myself. Because when you are faced with creating the truth of who you are, and you leverage kindness as the tool to decipher the action that you must take, you will move through the world as a person of kindness by asking yourself, in this moment, what would a person who is kind do to make their life better?
Wow.
And when you do that over time, your life will be better. But you have to think about this, man. So many of us are trapped. And there's people listening to this right now. They'll be like, that sounds easy, and I'm going to go do it, and nothing will change. And here is why. Because you must actually understand causation and correlation. And this is what hit me about 6 years ago, deep in the middle of doing this work. Child abuse and trauma impacts, on a statistical average, 83% of people in the United States. I would argue it's higher to 95% if you consider people who don't report, and growing up a house like mine, in which if you tell, you're going to get destroyed. And so the truth about trauma that I discovered that changed my life forever is that it's not the physical pain that we endure that shapes who we are. It's the theft of our identity, because we have to bend who we are for a parameter of safety. And in that bending, what happens is we learn not to be us, because every time we're us, we suffer. Every time that you are you, there's pain. And so your brain serves one purpose, right? Survival. Does not care about your dreams, your goals, or the color of your shirt. It cares about survival. And so since it's an autonomic response to stop being you, the most dangerous thing I could do as a kid was have an opinion. The fastest way for me to get my head slammed into the wall was to say I need something. So you learn to turn it off. And the messed up part, dude, is that shit serves you for a period of time. When you're 8, 12, 15.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're 22, 37, 48, 56 years old, and you don't know how to say yes. And you don't know how to say no. Because the only thing that you've ever done is placate yourself for safety, because your brain has adapted and said, wait a second, I need to survive. And in that, you don't have an understanding that you've never had the ability to be you before. Your identity has been stripped of you. And if you can operate through the scope of kindness and show up for yourself by doing things that are scary and facing your fears, especially the ones that keep you awake at night, on a long enough timeline, you will discover who you are.
You know, you talk about being able to forgive yourself. I constantly say this: you can tell a person who has a problem forgiving themselves by the way they forgive other people. Because if you can't forgive yourself, you're not going to forgive other people. So if you're listening to us today, and Michael's story is unbelievable, but if you're listening to us today and you have a hard time, you're like, I forgive myself, I think. Well, do you forgive other people well? Because if you can't forgive other people, it usually starts in your own heart, not being able to forgive yourself. And I say this a lot. Listen, you've got to learn to give yourself grace and mercy. You're going to make some mistakes. You're just going to. I don't care how great your life is. I don't care how much you love God. Listen, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. So you kind of figure that out. You're understanding the whole dynamic of my identity. Like, this is, I didn't speak up, and this safety mechanism is still active in my life. What was the switch for you that flipped for you to be able to know, okay, it's okay for Michael to be Michael?
Yeah, dude. I stopped caring what people think about me. And you hear this all the time, But it's so true. Like, if you don't like me or if you love me, that has nothing to do with me. The most important thing in my life is when I look in the mirror, I'm okay with the reflection on the other side.
Yes,
And
so
and,
good.
and for me, it was this discovery. Because look at me, man. I'm 6'4", gold ring in my nose, covered
Come
in
on, baby.
tattoos, wear J's, got my hat. I got this weird Indiana accent. Like, I don't care if you don't like me.
Right.
That has nothing to do with me. That was the greatest discovery of my life, because here's the truth. And when people can wrap their head around what I'm going to say and recognize that it's not me being an egomaniac, but instead it's about this thing called agency, their life will change forever. And what that is I only do what I want to do, and I never do what I don't want to do. Because that's agency, that's taking your power back, that's living life on your terms. It's putting yourself in a position in which you're showing up as who you are every single day. And look, dude, the craziest part is, like, we're having a human experience. Ken, we ain't never done this before. It's my first time, right? Every single moment of every single day is the first time I've ever done the thing that I'm about to do. And if you're willing to leverage the understanding that your failures, you can fail forward, right? Obviously, right? When you look at it and you understand John Maxwell's teachings, you can fail forward. When you become a learner, right? Thinking about one of my mentors, Tom Bilyeu, and the way that he thinks about the world, when you can put yourself in a position of showing up every day, shout out to Grant Cardone, and you look at all these people who are just simply a foot in front of you. And if you measure them and look at them and go, what do they have in common? They're all willing to be themselves. And you will never be free until you're willing to be you. But no one's going to give you permission for that. No one's going to be like, hey, you know what, Ken? It's okay if you be you today. It doesn't work that way. And so you have to decide, I am going to be me today, regardless of what you think. And if you are willing to do that, there's beauty on the other side of the suffering of the climb of self-discovery.
You know, one of the things I said, and this phrase is the one that I get the most wow when I speak, and that's be a person who wants something for people and not from people.
Yes.
And so I think when you live a life of service, Michael, it's easier for you to be you, because I'm not doing it necessarily for me or for my benefit. I'm doing it to benefit those people around me, which leads to me being able to live out my identity the way that God's called me to live out my identity. And it leads to a high level of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Talk about, because dude, you are a dude of service. I mean, I've been around you enough now in the last couple months to know, dude, you freaking love people. You have a passion and heart to help people get to the next level in their life. Talk about that servanthood, that servant attitude, servant leader attitude that you have, Michael.
Yeah. You know, I had somebody once tell me, when you're at your rock bottom, go and serve. And like 6 years ago, I wasn't really at rock bottom. I'd moved through it, but I was stuck. Like, I was feeling super complacent in life. I was going to therapy all the time, going to my coaching all the time, doing all this stuff, deep in personal development, but I felt like I wasn't actually going anywhere. And one night, it kind of hit me like lightning. Really, it truly did. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying in bed, and I'd gotten in an argument with somebody, and they had been like, hey, you're broken. And I just remember being like, dude, you are the 9 millionth time that somebody has told me that. When I was poor as a kid, when I smelled like pee because we didn't have water and I wet the bed, when I was stealing food from the school, when I didn't graduate, when I was in debt, when I was overweight, everybody was always telling me you're broken. I'm like, man, that ain't me. And I'm laying in bed. I'm like, that's not who I am. That's not what I believe. That's not how I think. And like lightning, man, middle of the night, Think Unbroken came to pass. And it was just like, let me go and teach people what I understand today. And maybe it'll help. Maybe my brothers will check this out. Maybe my sister will check this out. Maybe I'll serve my community in a way that, and look, Ken, I never thought we were going to be having this conversation. This wasn't in the plan. I never, ever, ever thought I'd be speaking in front of 10,000 people at 10X boot camp, winning 10 grand from Grant Cardone. I never thought that was going to be a part of my life. I never thought that I would be doing any of this, writing a #1 book, having a top 100 podcast, coaching hundreds of thousands of people. That was never in the game plan. The only thing that I wanted to do was be okay with that reflection. But being a leader, like, I've always been a leader. I'm going to tell you something crazy, dude. So I was listening to this book one time. I cannot remember who wrote it. It drives me crazy. And he goes, the nicknames you get as a child often become who you are as an adult. And when I was a kid, so I played sports, wrestling, football, baseball, wasn't great at any of them, but it's because I never showed up. And like everyone used to make fun of me and call me coach.
Wow.
Dude, all the time. Kids would just make fun of me, call me coach. I just wanted us to succeed. I wanted us to be great. I wanted me to be great, right? And so even if I won medals or first places or whatever, I was like, I wanted my friends to do that too. And I'd get mocked. And fast forward all these years later, people call me coach. And it's like, if you have the ability to serve and you are not, and you know that you have a thought that you're like, man, if I just did this, it would change the world. And you don't, your ass is being selfish.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you why. And I mean this truly. Like I tell people when they come into coaching with me, like when you step into this journey, this is a lifetime journey. Whether you do 12 weeks or 6 weeks or a year, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is the rest of your life. You're going to have to show up. And for you to be in this position where you're like, I have the next thing that I know will change the world, and you're not sharing it, you're selfish, because that thing could be the thing that I need in 30 years. And you must serve. You must, because we're a communal species.
Yeah.
And if you're at home and your life is miserable, I dare you to go and volunteer at the food bank. I dare you, because I've been homeless and I've been fed by those people.
Yeah.
Your life ain't that bad. So you need to go show up for other people and stop complaining.
One of the things you said just a minute ago, so you said somebody told you when you're at rock bottom, go serve people. And I really believe, God's not the author of us going through painful moments in our life. Sometimes he allows things like that to happen. Sometimes it's our own, sometimes it's our own responsibility. Sometimes it's other people in our lives' responsibility. Obviously, when you're 8, you can't help what's going on with you.
You cannot.
But one of the things that I've learned is in life is if we can take those really difficult situations, Michael, and turn those around so we can minister and help the people that went through the same thing we did, or help people avoid some of the things that we had to go through and find healing quicker, dude, it just does something. There's a level of fulfillment that brings in your life. I want to ask you one last question before we get off today. I've got a really good friend of mine who's got an unbelievable podcast. He asked this question to everybody. What does it mean to be unbroken to you? See what I did there?
Yes, I sure did, buddy. Look, man, here's the truth. You have to recognize that and this is going to catch people off guard, we live in the matrix. Mm-hmm. And I believe that in the sense that we actually have the ability to create our reality. And do not mean that and we live in a simulation. Could we? I don't know, but probably not. And so what I mean by we live in the matrix is that you have the ability that once you understand that you can bend the world to you instead of you bending yourself to the world, i.e. my favorite scene in any movie ever is when Neo walks in to see the Oracle. Yeah. And he sees the little boy sitting there, bending the spoon, and he's perplexed. And the little boy looks at him and goes, see, you must simply remember there is no spoon. And when you can adapt that to your life, dude, I sat here and I've had dinner with billionaires. I've been in rooms with people who are changing the world. I've written a best-selling book with no education. I've coached thousands of people. I love my life. I'm in the best shape I've ever been. I get to go serve on boards and counsel people and have conversations like this. I am a kid who was homeless and orphaned from the hood, whose mom died of a drug overdose, whose stepdad beat the crap out of him, who had to steal food to survive. Don't tell me you can't create the life that you want to have. But the only way you're going to be unbroken is when you get out of your own damn way and recognize the truth that every choice and decision that you make in your life is going to dictate and determine who you become. And if you understand reality, that the greatest way that you can ever be you is to simply face the fear of the thing that keeps you awake at night, then when you are in your deathbed and you have that last gasp, that right before it's all over, you will know that you lived a full life. Because to die with regret is a life unlived. And to do that is to take away from your community, your church, your family, your friends, everyone who needs you today, because you're terrified to look at that reflection in the mirror. And so if you want to be unbroken, you ask yourself this question: what am I willing to do to have the life that I want to have? And if the answer is anything less than no excuses, just results, you need to check yourself.
Yeah. I love that, dude. You're a little fired up this morning, bro.
I'm fired up every day, Ken.
Dude, I love it. That's exactly what people are like, dude, where do you get all that energy? I'm like, dude, man, I'm fired. I woke up at 3:56 this morning, 4 minutes before my 4 a.m. alarm. Dude, my feet hit the floor. I hadn't stopped since I got up.
It's life.
Michael, what's the best place for people to get connected with you, man?
Yeah, man. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Ken. I love you dearly, brother. I'm everywhere on social at Michael Unbroken, but I teach everything for free at the Think Unbroken podcast. If you go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com, we've had this guy, Ken Joslin, on. If you go there and if you go search Think Unbroken on iTunes or Spotify, it'll show up. Literally everything I teach is for free there. So go figure it out. No excuses.
Oh, I appreciate you, man. Guys, listen, man, there's very few people that I hold as much respect as I do for you, coming out of what you came out of. You know, I grew up in a not that bad of a situation, but a very similar situation growing up in Pontiac and in the hood. And dude, your story is inspiring. It's inspiring, and I love watching you do what you do. There is so much life in you. Like when I get around you, we talk a lot about being around life-giving people, and that people and I say this all the time, when somebody calls your phone, and I ask people this: when you call someone else's phone and they look and they see Michael Anthony on the call, you want them to go, dude, wonder what he's, boom, hey, what's up, man? You want them, instead of going, click and putting the phone face down on the desk, you want to be the type of person they can't wait to interact with you, because they know after that phone call, however brief it may be, they're going to feel better about themselves because they had an interaction with you. And my friend, you are one of those dudes, man.
Thank you, my brother. You are too. I appreciate you greatly. I don't believe in anything other than circumstance. And when you put yourself in the right rooms, you meet the right people, you show up for yourself, you have these kind of conversations, and people speak life into you and back and forth. And I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for you, because you allowing me to be here makes you a part of my goal, which is to end generational trauma in my lifetime through education and information. And so because of that, I'm forever grateful for you, my friend.
Well, dude, I love you, man. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, guys, thanks for joining us on this episode of the As the Leader Grows podcast, where we help business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, create community. Do me a favor today, if you would, subscribe, download, and leave us a 5-star review. We're going to take all those 5-star reviews at the end of the year. We're going to give away a VIP seat to Create 2023, the #1 entrepreneur conference in the Southeast. And we've got a couple guys you may have heard of. Number 1, John Maxwell. Number 2, Mr. Ed Milet. My buddy Randy Garn, Carlos Reyes, Amberly Lago. We're already lining up for next year. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Again, thanks for listening. Subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Go check out my guy, Michael Unbroken, on Instagram. Listen, subscribe to his podcast. Listen, this dude has a heart to help people. Anyway, thanks for joining us today.